Now, I'm admitting all. Good afternoon, everybody. We've got a few more coming in. Hope you're all well on this half term. It's a bit miserable where we are, raining, the sunshine's gone. So hopefully it's a bit sunnier where you are. Oh, there's still more coming. I have to say I'm impressed with all of your commitment. I wasn't sure how many people would join today because it's half term. And it's a small group, but it's smaller than our other engagement forums, but that's great because actually a lot of today is going to be discussion, and a lot of today will be picking up things that you want to talk about, answering questions and picking up some feedback from the session. So welcome to you all. I'm just going to give it a minute or two in case we have anyone else join us. In case you don't know or it's your first session, my name's Humphries. I'm Group Director of Student Services at Chichester College Group, and I'm here with my colleague Nick Mercado, who you can also see, who is Group Head of Student Services and part of my management team. So we just got one more coming in. So there's a number of you on the call. We're now up to 18 people who are not off on half term. If you've been on these other forums, you know that we've had between sort of 60 and 100 plus on some of these forums. So it has been very busy in previous times. I did expect this one to be very quiet. I'm actually impressed 19 of you have turned up to talk to me today, which is great, because we weren't sure how many people would join us for today's session. But I think what we'll probably do now, it's 3 minutes past, hopefully there's if anyone else comes along, we can pick them up. So guys, like I say, it's a small group of us today. This is the last of 6 student engagement forums that NAMS have run. We focus this conversation around enrichment and student voice, and you will know if you've joined us on previous sessions that we've looked at student leaders training. We have looked at student leader structures, organisational approaches to enrichment programs, and we've discussed a number of different things. So today's session, I titled it Bringing Communities Together, but really what I wanted to do today was have a general discussion about any questions you've had, pick up your feedback as far as the student engagement forum, and would you like NAMS to continue this opportunity to share practice on enrichment and student voice, and also to look and just discuss ideas that we're all having for bringing our communities together for September. So please do not sit quietly today. It's a small group and a forum for us to have a conversation. I'm really keen to make it as beneficial to you all as possible. So much more informal today. I've got no presentation to give you. Well, like I say, we've covered a lot in these student engagement forums, and now I'm really keen to get down to some of those questions and looking forward to September. So who is going to start by telling me what they'd like to talk about or know about, or any feedback on the student engagement forums or anything else? So let's see. I'd love to catch up on the last meeting, but don't have access to the site. How can I watch it? Thanks. So there is a number of the sessions have been recorded and are available on NAMS website. Now, if you have been shared this link by a NAMS member in your organisation, therefore you can't get into the NAMS section, my suggestion is you talk to that person because they can get on and show you the recording or download the recording for you. So you'll be able to do it in that way. You have to have been, someone in your organisation must be a NAMS member for you to be on this forum. So hopefully you will be able to access that. If you have any problems, let me know or drop me an email. I will drop my email address in the chat as always, so you can contact me. We did have an issue with recording this session, which was entitled Organisational Approach to Enrichment. I'm going to re-record that session for NAMS, and NAMS will then be able to add it to the website. The NAMs are also, the presentations are available on the website, I believe, in addition to the recordings. I will check that, and if not, then I will make sure that the presentations that have been delivered are on the website as well. Would love sessions to continue throughout next year. I mean, what other things, I mean, really keen to know what we haven't covered that you'd be interested in relation to enrichment and to student voice. I mean, if you were on the last session, we covered student leader training, and I will be taking to the NAMS executive a proposal to look at how we possibly could develop a resource for the sector on this. So I'm keen to hear if there was massive support for that moving forward in our last session. So really, this is really over to you guys. I want this to be beneficial. So if you have questions, subjects you want to talk about, pop them in the chat or unmute and talk to me so that I'm not talking to myself. And we'll pick up any subjects, really. So want things to continue, brilliant. What are people's plans for September? I mean, are we planning induction at the moment? I mean, it'd be great to cover more of volunteering and a social action. Caroline, thanks for that. And that's quite an interesting one for me because we're about to launch a massive volunteering program, and we've created a DOV style program called Give and Get Extra, which will reward not only our students but our staff with bronze, silver, gold type awards for volunteering and social action in their communities. So I think that's a great subject for us to carry on with. Great to carry on next year. I'd like to cover how to help transitioning into HE from an engagement point of view. That's a brilliant subject as well. I mean, certainly one we can pick up on around how we support students to progress into uni, what enrichment and student voice can do to underpin some of that skill development. I think that's a really, really good idea. During the Learner Voice Practitioner Network meetings, we were discussing how enrichment and these roles in general meet the EIF and what involvement with Ofsted. Would be great to go over this from someone achieving a grade 1. And that's the session I delivered on organisational enrichment. I think that was in Engagement Forum 3 or 4. That's the one that hasn't recorded, and that was my technical error. But like I say, I will record it over the coming week or so and then be able to share that with you. I'll be absolutely honest, if you read our Ofsted report, it talks about our students flourishing because of enrichment, because of all the extra additional activity, and it gives you everything you need, as I talked about for those of you on that session. The EIF, the study programme, those requirements give us everything we need to really push the agenda of enrichment. But as I said, it's often about how you categorise enrichment. I'm sure a number of you are in organisations where enrichment is still seen as the sports clubs that run it weekly, or the clubs and societies on their own. And actually enrichment should be much more than that. It needs to be seen by the organisation as a much broader subject. I will definitely make sure, Mel, that session is available to you soon so that you'll be able to have a look at how we've approached that. I have probably actually, while we're talking, I'll just share one slide from that presentation that just gives you a real feel for the sort of sentiment of what we were talking about. Just bear with me and carry on putting questions into the chat whilst I find said presentation to be able to share with you. And I will share that slide in a moment if I can. Sorry, keep your, well, nobody's talking, so we'll just keep saying these things right now. Is there? Okay, so I'm just loading a PowerPoint presentation that will give you a couple of things on that organisational approach. And if I just go back to that fundamental, apologies if some of you saw this last time, but as it's come up again, I think why not just share a couple of those slides and talk around that organisational approach. So hopefully, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Lovely. So remember when we talked about enrichment and student voice, it's about an enrichment, and we would classify student voice as an enrichment activity. It's how we define the approach to enrichment as an organisation, how it's evaluated, developed and measured. What are we trying to achieve with enrichment? Are you trying to ensure that your students have a wealth of opportunity to develop a variety of skills? Or are you wanting to add to their student experience, to have fun? What value is it adding? Is it part of your curriculum, and how does it enhance your student experience? Fundamentally, is it part of your college strategy? Is it something your college wants to achieve? To have student experience as outstanding, to give students opportunities that they don't get anywhere else? And the EF, as we've talked about, really sets us up to do this. I mean, if you look at all of the elements now, we've got 4 key elements in the education inspection framework. 3 of them talk about, even leadership and management, it's about student experience, personal development. All of those things are all enrichment. I mean, they categorise enrichment outside, but actually I would argue all of those things. And behaviours and attitudes are underpinned by enrichment and how we create an environment and a culture that's about students getting involved. Personal development, behaviour and attitudes, outstanding and good criteria are very clear about what you should be doing as far as enrichment. And this outstanding for personal development over here, the provider consistently and extensively promotes personal development, goes beyond what is expected so that learners have a wide, rich set of experiences that teach them why it's important to contribute actively to society. And that's everything about enrichment. And with study programs, they should be delivered. So just flicking through these slides, because I have gone through this and I don't want to bore some of you who saw this presentation before, but I just want to give you this overview diagram. This is how we approach enrichment and how we achieve that grade 1 outstanding with those comments around enrichment, because we take a number of different approaches. The first is curriculum-based activities. So in curriculum are required and encouraged to provide enrichment to their learners, to develop the opportunities, to record them centrally so that we can track that skill development. But actually all of our curriculum areas are involved in providing enrichment. We support a central enrichment team. My enrichment teams run Extra as a programme, which has a whole host of weekly activities, whether that be student voice-led, whether that be sports clubs, societies, or whether it be things like Cooking for University. I mean, we talked about transitioning to HE. We do an enrichment activity that's cooking-based, that's really about preparing to go to uni and look after yourself. We then link all of that through our college community calendars, and you would have heard me talk about them before. Wellbeing events, national events, charity, fundraising, and everyone gets involved. You can't do any of this as a single thing. It's got to be a college approach, and it's got to be part of what everybody does. And like I said, we also then offer an extensive off-site visits, trips, residential programs and off-site activities. Now, we actually created an entitlement to trips at CCG, which ensured that every single course gets at least 1 day trip a year, and every curriculum area offers an overseas or residential opportunity that students can take if they want to. Again, just really enhancing that by saying that everybody has to do it, so that students have that opportunity wherever they're studying, whatever curriculum they're studying. And then the green box just talks really about all the things that run through these sort of enrichment culture that we create with all these opportunities. The first is obviously British values. The second is student voice, which we've talked extensively about. I mean, our students will lead the way on charity events. Our student leaders will be part of deciding what happens and what charities and what we do, the fundraising we take part in. They'll champion Extra activities and get involved in them. And they're often promoting our trips as well to students across the group. So they'll feed back on curriculum-based activities and enrichment for us, and we'll often ask those questions. Like I said, it's very much about a cultural approach, but we measure the impact of everything. We evaluate that enrichment and how it's benefiting our students, and we link it to progression by looking at that skill set. If you heard me talking about it before, we created a set of skills that we want every learner at CCG to develop whilst they're with us, and we link all of these, everything we do, back to those set of skills. The tutorial programs and ACEs, which is our tutorial delivery, model supports all of that. And because we can break all this information down, we actually ensure that curriculum areas are accountable for ensuring that they're offering opportunity. We enhance it with all the other stuff, but actually I can tell a curriculum lead at course level what percentage of learners have been involved in enrichment, how many hours that they've done, what skills that they've developed, and what skills that haven't been developed in the curriculum area. And then we work with the curriculum area to support those opportunities. And like everything, we quality assure it so that we have we're not just offering these things, but we're making sure that they're good activities and well received by students. So I'm going to stop sharing that for a minute, and hopefully that gave you a little insight, Mel, into that session that, like I say, we will record and put onto NAMS for you. So what else can we help you with today? What do we want to discuss? What questions do we have? What can we do moving forward? So the general support in the chat for us moving forward with student engagement forums for next year, maybe once every half term. We could do a session once every half term throughout next year, so that we can look at different subjects there, or sharing best practice. Once every half term sounds great. Okay, brilliant. Like I say, the next step with student engagement forum, following this last one today, is that actually I will be, as you know, I'm a member of NAMS Executive, and we meet in July, and I will be presenting a paper to them about the student engagement forums and feedback and what people would like moving forward. So I will make sure that we include that. Is there anything, if you've been involved in all of these forums, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would have liked us to talk about? I'll just give it a minute. Excuse me, still drinking my coffee.
Hey Lisa, it's Debbie from Pastoral. Am I coming through?
Hello Debbie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And hello everybody. I may have missed it because I wasn't able to tune into all of the sessions, unfortunately, but did we cover anything that's centered around sustainability?
Not yet, and actually that's a great subject to add, student engagement and sustainability, particularly with the AOC roadmap and some of the things our colleges have done.
Yeah,
so
we've got G7 happening down the road from us.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Well, that must be interesting in your local area. I would certainly add, so if we did one, I mean, are you happy, you think the format's right, if we focus on one subject per half term?
I think for my perspective, I think that sounds brilliant. And I think it's also, even if we don't get to the point of knowing what exactly is the focus too far ahead, it allows that flex that if the world throws something unexpected to us, we've got a really excellent forum to respond to that and you know, work at pace on the hoof should we need to.
Okay, that's great. I mean, the sustainability one's definitely on the agenda. Further development of student leaders. Someone's also put a number of different suggestions in the chat. We mentioned previously about having some sort of student reps meeting via this forum. That would be really helpful. I would love that. My first question is, I can set up an opportunity before the end of term to meet with student leaders, but I'm very aware, probably like you, that most of our students are finishing within the next 2 or 3 weeks if they haven't. So would you prefer that student leader forum to take place in the next, if we plan something in advance for student leaders for next term, for September? I mean, the other thing we can look at doing, and I can put forward if you think it would be of interest, is we can look at some sort of webinar on student leaders for all your new student leaders towards the end of September, beginning of October, potentially. I'm going to go with yes, September. That'd be great. Great idea. Okay, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So generally, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so one of the other things we'll put on is a student leader webinar and looking at skills development and how you work Okay, fantastic. I'm just trying to go through some of these questions. Enrichment structures to support engagement. Yes, that's the session that I've explained. I failed to record because my technical ability was not there, and that I will re-record the presentation for NAMS in the next couple of weeks so that we can actually put that on for you. That's a structure to support engagement session. I will re-record and get that on there.
Caroline's put a question in there about looking at effective processes and systems for managing enrichment and learning.
Okay, so that's great. A suggestion to look at the processes and effective systems to manage tracking of enrichment. That's a great subject title we can add to next year's forum list. So we can do that too. Once every half term, potentially it would look great. Student reps meeting up, student leaders training, enrichment structure. Student leaders, resilience in young people would be good. So that sort of starts to diversify a little bit, I suppose, how we build it for enrichment, but that crosses into tutoring a little bit, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know who does that. We underpin all of our skill development through our program we call ACES, which is attitude, choices, employability, skills. And we would cover resilience and we'd link it to enrichment and student voice potentially through that program. But we certainly can have a look at that in there.
This was one suggestion from Ben, or a question was wanting to improve, would like to look to improve the engagement we have with our student council meetings. So I suppose it's about generating engagement.
Ben, you've come online. Do you want to chat?
Yeah, that's fine. So one of the conversations I've had with learners before is that our student councils are too similar to our learner and student voice. So I was just wondering if you had any ideas around how we can promote that engagement, really, because otherwise I feel like you invite the principal along and it's not effective because there's not enough people there. And do you know what I mean?
I think my first question to you, Ben, is did you say that your student council is separate to your student voice meetings?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my first piece of advice. If student voice is one thing, and if it's treated separately, then you're right, it loses that value. So our student union, our student voice, our rep system, it's all one process, it's all one thing. Okay. So it would start by electing a rep for each course. They would attend your equivalent council. Once a term, we have what we call student conference, which would be, I would imagine, your equivalent to the council. Principals attend, heads of learning, anyone with a vested interest in what's happening. They discuss a number of subjects and we change the agenda each term based on different themes. They have direct feedback immediately from people like the principal on any issues. And then from that forum, we elect student leaders who then run the student union on a weekly basis. But in my experience, Ben, and I've seen it in numerous colleges, and I'm sure there are colleges that make it work well, but when you separate student voice, student council, you get two different structures that are doing the same thing. What you need, my advice would be, is to pull that all together.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is get the learner representatives to attend the student council. I think the problem we're having is if you have a student, so you would call the student council as part of the student representative meetings as well?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Yeah. In the past, I think what they've done is run their own student council after the voice of the learner, and it's not worked because it's too similar.
Yeah, it's one thing. It's one thing. Our student council is made up of our student reps who attend student conference. Then our student leaders are our student exec.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
No worries. Always, final tip, Ben, free food. Always give free food.
Always free food.
Always free lunch, students. Anything you can, a sandwich and a packet of crisps will keep them happy.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Cheers.
Richard, you've put a couple of questions in there, or a question. Would you like to unmute and speak? Richard, are you still with us? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, hello, Richard. Yes.
Sorry, Lisa. Yeah, technical issues. Hi.
No
So,
worries.
Lisa, I was just wondering how you guys or colleagues here get mass messaging out to students. So, you know, whether it's opportunities, enrichment opportunities, club societies, things like that, because over the last year or so, as we've kind of had to move to remote learning, we've actually found it's easier to get mass messaging out to students because we've been able to all use Teams and things like that. So with my comms hat on, that's been an absolute godsend. But I'm a little bit worried that from September, tutors are going to be using remote learning just less and less and less. It'll, you know, even the good bits that have worked will probably disappear, and it will just return to being 100% face-to-face. And then that will present us with real challenges of, you know, getting messaging out to students. So I was just wondering how colleagues do that effectively.
I think it's a really, I mean, there's a number of things I'd say to what you said, and then hopefully some other people might share their comms. The first is I agree. The one benefit of the situation we've been in for the last year is that all students have to use their student login and their email addresses to get onto anything. And so we've had the ability, like you, to mass email all students. I think we are making sure that some of the things that we do just naturally that students have to do still require them to have that email access. And one of the things that we do is in induction, and we'll be continuing it in September, we run a short session called Digital Foundations. And one of it's a series of 4 small, very short 2-minute videos. And it shows them how to access our CCG Online, our Moodle pages. It shows them how to access our VLE, which is called C-Space. But one of the videos shows them how to link their college email to their personal email address from induction, so that we know that the minute they do that in induction, they do it there and then in that session, that we have that ability, even if they don't check their student emails, that it will be diverted to their personal emails, so they'll still get those messages. So that's the one thing I'd say.
Is that something you'd be able to share, Lisa? Because that you've almost answered one of my questions with that students notoriously don't always check their college emails. Yeah,
I can share absolutely the video with you. Let me make a note of that. If I forget, Richard, do you want to just drop me an email and I'll send it to you?
Absolutely. I'll put my email address in the chat.
Lovely. So, I mean, that's one thing I'd say to reinforce that student email, because all student emails do work. We heavily use social media. I mean, we literally get students to sign up over the summer if they're starting with us in September. Follow us on social media to know everything that's going on in college. We literally promote it to every student, and we get that following. So a lot of our comms go out through social media. Add that then to, I also manage tutoring, and we do something called ACES Shout Out, which is a weekly 2 minutes at the beginning of our tutoring session, ACES workshops, where we just tell them what's coming up, what's going on, what trips are on offer, or any key messages across the board, really. And it just means that we've got sort of that consistent to every group message around, all right, we've just put this trip on sale, we're going to Friday night, this new enrichment activities come on. So we do that as well. And obviously we have a massive presence in induction, freshers fair, enrichment sign-up events, student union promos. We bring in inflatables and all sorts of things, and we just get students involved, and therefore we get their details and we sign them up to an enrichment mailing list.
Really helpful, thank you.
You're very welcome, Richard. Anyone else got another genius idea on comms they want to share? Lots of you are putting in the chat your email addresses to get that video. I will share it with everybody on the call, and when I've downloaded the participants, I will get that to you. Like I say, it's just 2 minutes, but it just shows the students there and then, and it's available on our online platform all year, and students can go back to it and we can pick it up, but we just try and get that happening. You all know, if you've been doing this any length of time, induction is your prime time, because they don't know any better. They'll do anything you tell them to do, more or less, in induction. And so whatever you can get them to sign up to, give you details for, or like I say, linking things like their college emails to their personal emails, the better. Okay, lots of people. I will share the video with everybody. So thank you for those of you keep putting your emails. I will add it in. I saw a question around student reps and student union. I think I've probably answered it around can we have something similar to student reps about students similar to student reps for students unions. I mean, obviously we treat the things the same. Like I say, I in 20 years, I'm just about to celebrate 20 years at CCG. From 20 years since I was first started working here, but I had finished as student president. And in 20 years, I've spoken to so many colleges, and I've said all along, I never understand an approach where your student union is separate from your reps. If your student unions traditionally can be tricky to manage and potentially cause some concern for colleges. But what I'd say to you is that get them to work for you, not against you, and keep that student voice and that representation of what students say with your student unions as one approach. I have seen successful approaches in keeping student unions separate, but by default, what you're saying is your student voice isn't linked to what your student union are representing. Just feels disjointed for me. Is there any other questions? Anything else we'd like to raise, bring up? Lots of you would like the video, and I will share the video with you. I suppose while I wait and see if any other questions go into this chat, one of the things I'd say to you is we're preparing for normal delivery for September. So I'm preparing normal induction, freshers fairs, trips and overseas programs, activities, enrichment, extra, and we are planning to deliver normally. We are, though, adding to our enrichment, adding to our offer some virtual offers that are going to continue. So like many of you, we did some really successful virtual enrichment over the lockdown periods. We did things like podcast review, hot topics discussion, the big quiz, keep fit from home, and some of them have proved really popular, and those students have fed back they want them to continue. So we are going to develop the enrichment offer to include some in-person and virtual activities. Student experience for transition from school to college, keep warm, and induction may be a good topic for another time. That's a great topic, and one that I will definitely add to the list moving forward. I mean, I've talked, like I say today, about a little bit about some of that keeping warm and induction stuff. Our students are absolutely, from the moment we go into a school, that we talk about student voice, we talk about student union, we talk about enrichment, and it's literally from the minute we start to sell the college or any of our colleges, we are talking about that extracurricular, that college life. It's more than just a qualification, it's about getting the most out of the provision, and we set that tone very early on. Are you planning back up to Freshers Fair, like a virtual one, just in case you can't do it physically? And how do you get students to actually engage students on virtual stuff? Okay, two great questions. The first is I'm secretly planning a backup for September to Freshers, but outwardly facing to everyone, it's we're back, we're doing what we do, and we're planning to deliver normally. You all know, and I'm sure you're in the same place as we are desperate to create that environment again and bring students back to a normal delivery, and we're hoping for that. So yes, we are. We ran a virtual Freshers Fair this year, at the beginning of this year, and we ran it over a week, and we promoted different businesses and organisations through our social medias and online platforms over a period of weeks. So yes, there is a virtual alternative that can be run. We've also run virtual careers fairs this week, virtual HE this year, virtual HE fairs, and a variety of other things that enable us to prepare to do events again. How do you get students to actually engage students on virtual stuff? So you mean in virtual enrichment things? We just heavily promoted it and they all rocked up, really. They just linked in. We make it easy by literally every promo we send out, it's you want to get involved in this, click this link, and it's just straight in, you're involved, there's no faff around, you don't have to register and do this. You literally click a link and you're there and you're involved if you want to be in that. some of them are more harder to get students involved in or engaged in, but generally, because the ideas are being led, I mean, some of the virtual ideas, or most of them, came from our student experience team and student enrichment teams working with the student leaders to go, what should we do? What will really benefit students now? And then our student leaders go out and sell that for us to students as well. So I suppose the answer to your question is, make sure you ask your students what they want and don't just decide what to put on. Make sure they're involved in championing it, because they'll help you sell it and get engagement. Make it easy. If you overcomplicate the process to get involved for students, it needs to be as simple and as easy as possible every time. Hope that answers your question or gives you some idea. No worries. What else can we do for you this afternoon? Is there anything else, hot issues you want to add? Whilst I'll see if any questions are in there, I will be sending out an evaluation on the student engagement forums. I'd really appreciate you all to complete. It'll be short and sweet, but it'll give us a real steer with NAMS as to what we can do for you moving forward, and hopefully how we can get some other people involved as well in sharing some of the different practice. I've said this many times, and I say it many times when I talk about student voice and enrichment. Our way is one way, and it's one way that we've made very successful by years and years of development. It hasn't just happened, and you know, we're not the only ones with this successful model. There's many successes out there, and we're really keen that more people share as well, because it's not just me talking, and that we get more people to share those different practices, because the approach that works for us might not work for all of you, but it's about taking those bits that you can adapt into your own organisations. So, is there any other questions? Anything else you'd like to throw on there? I'm just going to give it a few minutes. We've talked for 40 minutes there, and so that's not too bad. I think that's we've had a fairly good discussion. I hope it's been useful, and I'm keen to continue to get your questions, ideas. You can all email me. You know how to get hold of me if there's things you want to raise. Like I say, I'll be taking to the NAMS executive proposals for continuation of student engagement forums and what they may look like moving forward, and so we will feed back to everybody once that's done, and let you know what it's going to look like for next academic year. I'm just posting my email address in the chat.
Behaviour management.
Behaviour management is a topic.
There we go.
Indeed. Do you mean general behaviour management, Debbie, or do you want linked to enrichment and student voice particularly? There is.
I'm just interested in it. Generally, I think it's really interesting hearing from such an amazing spread of ideas and people with experience about the fundamentals and the principles and how that links to process. It's about culture, isn't it? And that underpins everything to do with student experience and I guess engagement, really. So I'm really interested in that.
About this, Deborah, because I'm responsible as well. Myself and Nick take responsibility for our behaviour management strategy at CCG. We have something called positive behaviour management, and we take a very different approach to lots of organisations. Chair of NAMS, Polly Harrow, has just released a fantastic piece of work on restorative justice that's been shared through the ETF, I think. But if you're on LinkedIn and you've have a look for Polly Harrow, she's shared that piece of work on restorative justice and the work that Kirklees have done on that. And there's some fantastic stuff around behaviour on that. I will certainly, I mean, as well as student engagement forums, obviously NAMS run a number of webinars with different subjects, not just around student engagement. And I will suggest that we put on a webinar where we showcase some approaches to behaviour management, Deborah, and have that whole discussion.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Very welcome. Okay. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that these sessions have been so valuable to people, particularly people new to the sector or to this organisation, to this enrichment student voice. And I will always support and help and advise wherever I can to anyone on Student Voice and Enrichment, so please don't hesitate to contact me. I think we're probably, quick question, do your societies and clubs are run by students like a chair and a treasurer person? No, we don't have them, they're not set up in that way. We don't have a chair and a treasurer, we run them as activities, and they are nearly all staffed by a member of staff or one of our student leaders supporting the activity. It depends on the type of activity we're doing as to how we staff it, but the societies aren't set up as separate entities. We run all of them under the banner of the Student Union, which has one constitution and one approach to delivery. No worries. I'm going to stay on for a minute. Thank you, those of you who've joined us. I hope you have a nice weekend. I will feed back to you, and like I say, we'll be sending that link out around feedback on these student engagement forums. I've got some great ideas for next year and an obvious demand for wanting to carry on with these things. So we'll feed back to you once we've spoken to NAM's exec. But for now, I'll stay on to speak to anybody or answer any questions. Other than that, thank you all very much and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
Hello, you haven't met me and I haven't met you before. I'm Charlotte Hiscock. I'm Senior Tutor and Designated Deputy Safeguarding at Lackham,
Okay.
Wiltshire College, and I'm standing in for Joe Kelly today.
Okay.
And I was listening to everybody, and you were saying about tutorial and getting the messages across and getting everybody involved in enrichment, because that's what we do on a weekly basis in their tutorial. We have key messages on PowerPoint. My question is, because I'm feeling the ground rather, is what other platforms, you know, everybody is death by PowerPoint, isn't it?
Yeah.
And our tutors deliver the key message, what you were saying a couple of minutes, you know, at the beginning, through that PowerPoint presentation, because it's an easy way to deliver a consistent theme across all our four campuses. But I'm a bit bored with PowerPoint. I'm bored with putting them together. I've been doing it for years. And I didn't know whether there was any other platform, bar from Teams, because we post everything in Teams, like you were saying, you know, ram it, throw it everywhere. Excuse me. Is that if there was anything else? I know you were saying about videos and you know, sort of little podcasts and things like that, but I'd love to find another way to deliver this in a much more inspirational way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, there's all sorts of answers to what you're asking, really, Charlotte, because, you know, like you, there's only so much PowerPoint, but then how you, I mean, I suppose it's about the tone and how you do that. I mean, our ACES stuff is quite funky, and we got design and branding to link to it, so the ACES shouts outs. We don't tend to do too much on the PowerPoint and more just talk. The biggest platform we use is our social media. Our presidents and student leaders write blogs, and they are regularly doing videos that they're talking about what's going on. We share those highlights.
We got Poppy to do quite a few of those right at the start, actually, you know.
And then what happens is, although we share them on our SU pages, our main college sites then share those messages as well. So you've got that wider sort of coverage. We send all staff emails out, so staff are aware of what's going on and can share that stuff as well. Because
I do that every week with key messages, and it goes to our central system in SharePoint.
One of the things that's probably controversial on this forum, or could be controversial to some, is all of my tutors. So we have student tutor model, a super tutor model, and the student tutors each look after a cohort of learners. They do their ACEs, their one-to-ones, etc. But every one of them has a professional social media site and professional WhatsApp application through their iPads. So what that means is that we can direct message the student cohorts and put key messages onto social media platforms and to WhatsApp, which is again a really great way to communicate with learners.
Right, that's very interesting. As you say, I think it's controversial in the sense, gosh, trying to get that by RIT.
Yeah,
would be.
We have some parameters and rules around them, and they have to be set up in certain ways.
Yeah.
And our marketing are involved in that so that they can monitor the sites. But ultimately, it was, if your students say, you ask your students, what's the best way to communicate? They'll say social media.
Yeah, they
and
will.
If that's the case, then we need social media to be able to communicate with them. So that's what we did. That's exactly what we did.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm just trying to find other ways of doing stuff. I mean, what you were saying, I mean, with the advantage of PowerPoint is the fact that it can be blasted across many platforms.
Yeah.
And all our tutors, similar to yours, who are pastoral tutors, will put it up onto their Teams tile, for instance. And that's how we communicated throughout the lockdown, actually. Say, right, here's the Teams tile. Please look at key messages. There's vital information here for you to look at. Students go, yeah. And then when they come back 6 weeks later and ask a question about, oh, who do I go to for a bit of well-being, when it's been on every single presentation since we've started, you start to worry that the message isn't getting through. You know, and it's how big do you make the key messages? How, you know, I'm very much someone who likes just to have a slide and talk around it, but you know, to maintain.
We don't allow ACES shout outs to be more than one slide. It's one slide with bullet points and we talk around it. That's it. That's the end. There isn't more than that.
Yeah. And one slide. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a good old poster either.
No, we do put posters everywhere, and we do have some boards that we own that we do update regularly with posters, because there is still a place for a poster or two.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Lisa. If you come across anything that you think you could just share with us, any idea? I mean, we did try genially, I can never say it, it's probably why I was put off using it, which I just thought was an upgraded PowerPoint presentation, quite frankly. And you had to also pay to go and get the better. So if anybody out there has got any ideas, we would love to hear about them.
I'll keep an eye out for that one. I saw something recently, but I can't remember the name of it, where you can create little animation videos. And
I love that idea.
So I'll find that out for you, Charlotte. And
thank you, Lisa. That would be great, because that's one that I'm actually very keen on. And you know, like with everything, you know, people get bored of stuff. It's like seeing the same poster every day. You don't see it after a while. You know, it's that kind of principle, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
There's still a couple of people with us. They might just be heading out, but
just thank you so much, guys. I am unashamedly a magpie, and it's just
there's nothing wrong with that, Debbie. Not
when it's all for the greater good of the students. It doesn't really matter what college. That's just, you know, where you end up living. It's just So I just just wanted to say thank you so much for your time and generally sharing what you do. You're just so giving, and it's just wonderful. I love it. I love that whole vibe that exists here. So yeah, from down here in Cornwall, thank you very much to you guys.
Very much, and I wish I was in Cornwall right now, to be honest. But we really appreciate that feedback, and we hope to continue to be able to share and create that great vibe as well.
All right, take care.
All right, cheers. Bye-bye. Jackie.
Charlotte's still with us?
I think Charlotte's still with us, but she's probably leaving.
Yeah.
Don't report. Hello, Jackie. That was not bad in the end, was it?
That was good.
Yeah, I don't know if you were listening or whether you were busy, but there is a definite request to continue with these next year and to do some different stuff. So I'll put it all on a paper and then we'll discuss it exec and see.
Yeah, I was part listening and part not listening, really. So I had my headset just lying here, and I don't know. Do you know? I think I'm ready for a break. It surprises me, kind of some of the questions that are asked.
I know.
And I think, what are you doing in your day job? Sorry, Nick, I should, but that's just how.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit surprised, really. I mean, it's good that you two or Lisa leads on these. It's really, it's fantastic. But what are they doing?
It's a joint effort, definitely. And never apologise to Nick. He works for me. He has to put up with all sorts of shit all the time, Jackie. You know what I mean? He's so hard done by.
Yeah, I don't mean to sound unprofessional, but I am surprised. I'm just having one of those moments in life, I think, where I just think, how are you all doing your day jobs?
Well, to be honest, this is why we've got such a problem in FE, because so many colleges are not doing. They're just so different. It's so different.
Yeah.
And this is why the sector struggles to get any credibility, because you've got some outstanding providers and people, good providers doing the right things, and others. And you think, how are you running an institution?
Yeah.
Did you pick up, there was a request to run a webinar on behaviour management? And
no, I didn't hear that one, sorry.
Okay, so I said that was sort of outside, but I recommended the work that Polly's just released on the restorative justice.
Yeah.
But I said that I would put it to NAMS exec to look at a behaviour management webinar, maybe next term, that a couple of us could do and talk about different approaches.
Yeah. I mean, behaviour is such a broad brushstroke, isn't it? And I would always ask what's going on behind that young person's behaviour, what's happening at home or in the community to cause them to behave in that way. But it's a very broad subject. Maybe it could be broken down into chunks, if you like.
I think they were talking about, because they were asking about our positive behaviour management approach, and I think it's how you create culture and strategy initially. But you're right, we could then pick that up. But I'll add that on. Can you, that went, I think, considering it was, I didn't expect anyone, 20 people are on, that's better than nothing.
Yeah. The more you think about it, though, the more it's quite difficult to pitch it so that
everyone gets
it, and but also that everyone understands that these things do not sit on their own.
No.
Positive behaviour management is linked to culture, which
is
linked to student growth. I just, when we merged, Jackie, with Chichester, so I was in the old Central Sussex College, and we did student voice as a kind of a tick boxy type thing, and we didn't really have a proper structure, and we did a bit and we dabbled. But when we kind of merged, one of the things that we looked at was, we didn't just bring PBM in or positive behaviour management into the college and just say, right, this is how we're doing it now. There was an opportunity to get our students involved. They looked at the old policy, they looked at the new policy, they had an input into, how the organisation was going to approach kind of behaviour management, and that was one of the ways of starting that whole sort of student voice / positive behaviour management / cultural change. All of those things. It's not one thing.
No.
The number of colleges that don't even listen to students properly, and it still is unbelievable.
And I worry that they take what you're sharing, so generously take what you're sharing, but they don't get the gap from where you're at and where they're at. And it's almost like they're trying to lift what you're telling them and drop it in, and everything is okay. And it's not.
I've had that conversation several times where in these sessions where I've said, look, we're 20 years into this. We've been working on this for 20 years. This is, something we've developed. You won't be able to just take that and do exactly that. But we'll have to see, Jackie. We'll have to see.
Keep going.
When you get a minute, can you send me, why is there someone waiting we're not going to omit them because we're ending. Can you send me the download of the chat so I can send all these people this bloody video?
I can do. As soon as we stop, I'll send that on to you. No problem at all.
I've got it on. I'm writing a paper on this to come to exec in July, so I will send it to you. It won't be for a couple of weeks, Jackie, but
there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
And you both. Thank you again for doing that. Cheers everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.